to our 5 on 5. I'm pleased to be joined today by the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Indians CEO Michael Rondeau. Michael, good to see you. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So I understand you have a pretty big anniversary event planned for, is it this Friday, I think? What can you tell us about this?
Well, we're actually celebrating two anniversaries. The first anniversary is a 40-year anniversary from the tribe's recognition in 1982. And the other anniversary is 30 years for the Seven Feathers Casino. We started that in 1992, and we built it to where it is today.
That's pretty cool. So I imagine it's a long process to get that sort of official recognition. What can you tell us about all the work and years and how many people it took to make that happen?
Well, the significance, to put it into context, we are one of the first two treaty tribes in the Pacific Northwest to sign a treaty in 1853. And it was actually a treaty that was ratified by the Senate in 1854. But the Rogue Indian Wars broke out, and many of the viewers, I'm sure, are familiar with that. But in 1855, it caused a lot of chaos in Southern Oregon. And unfortunately, the Cow Creek's Treaty became kind of an ignored document. And in essence, we lost recognition because many of our tribal members were taken north to Grand Ronde and Siletz and the reservations to the north. And Cow Creek, what we came were the remnants of that. And actually, our families married into the fur trappers. And so that's kind of why you've got some of the names, the French names in our tribe. And there were about 5 bills were introduced in the early 1900s and the 19-teens, 1920s and 30s that were to restore the tribe, to get the recognition back from as a government to government. And 5 times bills were introduced, and on the 5th time, it passed both houses of Congress, but it was vetoed by President Hoover because of the Great Depression, and it wasn't the time to get into the Indian business, was the quote at the time. So that led us to about another 40-year period where 1954, the termination era, and that was a program that was an experimental program, pilot program for the tribes in Western Oregon. The Secretary of Interior was I believe he was a former governor or senator from Oregon at the time, but was appointed to be Secretary of Interior. And he created this pilot project just with the tribes that, west of the Cascades in Oregon, and then a few other tribes throughout the nation, just very few, but where they terminated them. And so that meant all of their government to government relationships went away. And actually the lands and everything were taken back by the government. And Cow Creek at that time, we weren't recognized because we were trying to get recognized, but they recognized us for that, only out of an abundance of caution to terminate us again. And so it wasn't until about another 25, 30 years later, in 1977, the Siletz tribe, the Confederated Tribes of Siletz, went to Congress and they got their recognition restored. Their tribe was re-recognized by the federal government. And Cow Creek, we were the second tribe in the state. In 1982, Grand Ronde was 1983, and Coos came along in 86, and then the Coquille tribe in 89. And so that's how the Western Oregon tribes have been restored. They're called a restored tribe. And ours was a long haul. It was a lot of efforts done by a lot of people that have passed away now. And I think there's probably only 1 or 2 that were involved in the original testimony before Congress that are still alive. So we're truly on to that next generation. And it's something that is bittersweet in a sense, because we're proud of where we are and we're proud of the accomplishment of recognition and what we can do for our community and our people. But there's a sadness that comes with that, and that is with those elders that have passed on. I often talk about one of my great aunts. She died in 1980, and she was 89 years old, but she was not alive when we got recognized. And her entire life as an Indian, a Native American, the federal government didn't recognize her as that. And that's very touching to me, that I feel very sad that there are so many of those in our tribe that weren't recognized and weren't validated for who they were. And so there's a lot of positives that have come out of the Recognition Act, but it also reminds us of those that have passed on.
Yeah, well said. And I do, since we have you here, and I do want to squeeze in a question about something different. I know, obviously, you and the tribe have been paying close attention to discussions between the Oregon Racing Commission and the Flying Lark and Travis Boersma, Dutch Bros co-founder. Did your tribe, or did you have any discussions about sharing revenue for gaming with Boersma or Flying Lark representatives?
Actually, I wasn't involved in the discussions. That was something that was handled by our gaming division. And I don't know that that was ever on the table.
Okay. And I know that the tribe, and maybe lawyers, obviously, that they work for you and the tribe, but there is concern from the tribe that there is a growing industry of private gambling in Oregon. What else is out there besides those HHRs that potentially concern you?
Well, I don't want to be someone who blocks change, but change is uncomfortable. But Oregon has had a pretty successful formula when it comes to gambling in the state. We've got the Oregon State Lottery, and then we've got, I believe, 8 of the 9 tribes that operate casinos. And the public policy at the time that we negotiated our compacts really intended for the casinos that tribes were able to do on their reservations. It was really kind of an idea of, one casino per tribe and in their area. And that was the premise that a lot of the tribes were operating off of. And that formula worked out well. We understand now, with changes in the lottery, and because technically Oregon's lottery is the largest casino in the state, with the number of machines that they have. But there's always change happening, and you have to be able to be versatile enough to make that change as it comes. And I think we're doing okay. There would be serious consequences if there were casinos to be popping up all over the place. And Oregon just, the gaming market's mature, and adding more to more options is just something that isn't healthy for our economy and the economies of the tribes.
Well, like you said, change can sometimes be uncomfortable, as can these conversations. I appreciate you putting up with my questions, certainly as we're talking about something so outstanding for your tribe. Thank you for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, take care. We'll be right back.